Conor McGregor is going to get brutally mauled by Max Holloway on July 11th. And I honestly can't even believe we're wasting another card on this fight. I mean, after UFC 303, I genuinely just can't believe we're trusting this guy to headline International Fight Week again. You know, at some point, the UFC just has to stop selling people nostalgia and just start accepting reality. Because honestly, Conor McGregor is just not the same fighter anymore. And I know the UFC fans hate hearing this, but there's just like this weird idea in MMA that old legends can just disappear for years and then just come back after these massive layoffs and somehow still be the same exact fighter they were in their prime. And that's just not how fighting works. You know, your timing, your reactions, your durability fades, and just your confidence changes, your body changes, everything just changes. And we've literally watched this happen over and over again. And, you know, this just happened recently. You know, people acted like John Jones was still this untouchable destroyer. And I'm putting that quotes because people are saying that. But I mean, he took Thiago Santos to split decision, controversial loss against Dominic Reyes, then took like a decade to bulk up to heavyweight. And then he just gets tagged up by like a corpse of a retired fighter in Stipe Miocic just coming off a knockout loss. Like, John Jones just getting tagged up by him every single round. And that's just what happens when fans remember the aura more than the actual fighter. And you know, nobody benefits more than that remembrance of the aura, more than Conor McGregor. You know, I know people are still imagining the 2015 Conor McGregor, you know, doing this, the sniper at featherweight, and the guy that could just like touch you once and just shut your lights out. But that guy doesn't exist anymore. And you know, ever since he was double champ, what have we actually seen? You know, mauled by Dustin Poirier, his legs snapped, years of inactivity, the pullouts, and just honestly, with the long layoffs, we're talking about a guy who barely fights anymore, coming back again to fight one of the highest volume pressure fighters in UFC history. And stylistically, this matchup is horrible for Conor. And I mean, maybe not as bad as like a pure wrestler with no submission threat, but at least a wrestler won't kill him. Max Holloway might actually kill Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's entire style just depends on controlling the pace early, you know? He wants guys frozen in front of him so he can land those counters, manage that distance, and just dictate the rhythm of the entire fight. Max Holloway is designed to ruin fighters like that, you know? He doesn't stop throwing, he doesn't stop pressuring, he doesn't stop building volume, and I mean, he just mentally breaks people under pressure. And there's just one thing people ignore about this fight. It's just the psychological side. You know, old Conor, other than Habib, he used to beat people before they even got in the cage, you know? He had this aura where, like, opponents just were a bit scared to engage with him in his prime. You know, that effect is gone now. So many people have seen him gas out. They've seen him just quit in bad positions. His leg snapped. He gets injured. He's been inactive for years. And, you know, Max Holloway is one of those mentally durable fighters. This is just a guy who just points to the center of the cage and just starts swinging in the last seconds for fun, you know? The psychological edge that Conor used to rely on just isn't there anymore. And, I mean, physically, things look bad, bro. You know, Conor looks so slow in these training clips and that sparring footage. I know people say training footage doesn't matter, but eventually your eyes tell you something. And at 170 pounds especially, I thought it was going to be at 155. At 170, I think he gets finished in one round. You know, the higher the weight class gets, the less special Conor's physical tools become. I mean, at 145, he was big 145er. He was fast, explosive, and dangerous early. At 170, I mean, against a hydrated Max Holloway with no weight cut, it's a nightmare matchup. I mean, with no weight cut, Max is going to have endless cardio, endless pressure, and a chin. Honestly, his chin is still one of the best in the UFC, even after all the wars he's been through. And I know what you're saying. I know you're going to think of the Ilya Taporia knockout. But, I mean, he's clearly not as durable as he used to be. Nobody can absorb that much damage forever without slowing down. But that version against Max Holloway looked absolutely drained, cutting down to 145. Just go back and look at him on the scale. He literally looked like the skull emoji. That isn't a healthy version of Max Holloway. I don't think Max Holloway will ever or should ever cut down to 145, even if he's guaranteed a title shot. I mean, he landed 500 significant strikes against Calvin Kattar in 2021. 500. That's not normal. At that same time, Conor was getting finished by Dustin Poirier. And the crazy thing is, Max doesn't need one perfect shot to beat Conor. That's the crazy part. He just needs Conor McGregor to exist in the cage longer than like 5 or 7 minutes. Because historically, just Conor just starts to fall apart once those opponents start to just survive that early danger. We saw against Nate Diaz, Habib, Dustin Poirier. Once that pace starts to turn against him, his body language just changes completely. He goes from doing this to when Habib dropped him, he just like doing the MVP stance with his hands at his waist. His hands drop. I mean, his movement slows. His confidence just completely disappears. And against Max Holloway, there's no break. You know Max Holloway's going to have 5 rounds of cardio. There's no reset button, and he's not going to let you breathe. He's just going to drown you slowly. And that's just what makes this fight feel ugly to me. I seriously think there's a real chance Conor quits on the stool, if he can even make it there. Just like Nate Diaz did against this weekend against Mike Perry. I don't think Conor McGregor is going to make it to the stool after 1 round. I think he gets finished inside of 1 round. Company just keeps throwing massive cards at legends that are just coming off layoffs and injuries and losses because their names still sell. Should be no reason 329 is getting headlined by Conor McGregor. We've had so many bullshit cards this year. The Charles Oliveira Max Holloway card, bullshit. BMF title fight isn't a real title fight. Throw a real title fight on there. Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett, that's a co-main. I don't want to see an interim championship as the main event. I mean, Yuri Prohaska, Carlos Alberg was supposed to be a normal fight until all that bullshit happened. But, I mean, like, there's just so many real contenders. And at some point, the nostalgia era has to end. I don't want to see this anymore. And honestly, this fight might finally be the moment people realize it. And if Max Holloway really does go out there, which I believe, and just brutally mauls Conor McGregor in front of the entire world on International Fight Week, it's not even a normal card. It's not a co-main. Everybody's looking forward to this. It just won't feel like another loss. It'll feel like the final collapse of the McGregor myth. And I think it's absolute insanity that this is a real card. But I mean, hey, I don't like Conor McGregor. I'm completely fine seeing him get finished in 1 round. But I know Twitter's going to look like an absolute madhouse on Madison when this happens. We'll see what happens.